So I woke up this morning, got dressed, and headed into the kitchen, where my wife was already preparing breakfast. As I walked in, I noticed something unusual. One of my socks was frying in the pan. I looked at her, bewildered, and asked, "What on earth are you doing?" She turned to me and said, "I'm making breakfast, just like you asked me to last night, when you came to bed, completely plastered." Confused, I walked away, thinking to myself, I don't remember asking her to cook my sock. Sister Mary Catherine lived in a nunnery, a block away from Jack's liquor store in Dublin. One day, she came into the store and said, "Oh, Jack, give me a pint of the brandy." "Sister Mary Catherine," exclaimed Jack, "I could never do that. I've never sold alcohol to a nun in my life." "Oh, Jack," she responded, "it's for Mother Superior." Then her voice dropped. "She's getting on in years, and it helps her constipation, you know." So Jack sold her the brandy. Later that night, Jack closed the store and walked home. As he passed the nunnery, who should he see but Sister Mary Catherine? And she was snookered. She was singing and dancing, whirling around and flapping her arms like a bird, right there on the sidewalk. A crowd was gathering, so Jack pushed through and exclaimed, "Sister Mary Catherine, for shame. You told me this was for Mother Superior's constipation." Sister Catherine didn't miss a beat, as she replied, "And so it is, me lad, so it is. When she sees me, she's really going to shit." Every night, Frank would go down to his local bottle shop, get a six-pack, bring it home, and drink it while watching television. One night, as he finished his last beer, the doorbell rang. Frank stumbled to the door and found a 6-foot cockroach standing there. The roach grabbed him by the collar and threw him across the room, then left. The next night, after Frank finished his 4th beer, the doorbell rang. He walked slowly to the door and found the same huge cockroach standing there. The big roach punched him in the stomach, then left. The next night, after he finished his 1st beer, the doorbell rang again. This time, Frank was kneed in the groin, and he doubled over in pain. Then, the big roach left. The 4th night, Frank didn't drink at all. The doorbell rang. The cockroach was standing there. The roach beat the snot out of Frank and left him in a heap on the living room floor. The following day, Frank went to see his doctor. He explained the events of the previous 4 nights. "I thought it might be the drink, but he belted me when I didn't have a beer." "What can I do?" Frank asked. "Not much, I'm afraid," the doctor replied. "There's just a nasty bug going around at the moment." I was in the airport VIP lounge en route to Seattle a couple of weeks ago. While there, I noticed Bill Gates sitting comfortably in the corner, enjoying a drink. I was meeting a very important client, who was also flying to Seattle, but she was running a little bit late. Well, being a straightforward kind of guy, I approached the Microsoft ex-chairman, introduced myself, and said, "Mr. Gates, I wonder if you would do me a favor." "Yes?" he asked. "I'm sitting right over there," pointing to my seat at the bar, "and I'm waiting for a very important client. Would you be so kind, when she arrives, as to come by and just say, 'Hi, Tom?'" "Sure," Bill agreed, with a kind smile. I thanked him and went back to my seat. About 10 minutes later, my client showed up. We ordered a drink, and we started to talk business. A couple of minutes later, I felt a tap on my shoulder. It was Bill Gates. "Hi, Tom," he said. I looked up and replied, "Shut up, Bill. I'm in a meeting." A man walks into a bar and notices a very large jar on the counter, filled to the brim with $10 bills. He guesses there must be at least $10,000 in it. He approaches the bartender and asks, "What's with the money in the jar?" "Well, you pay $10, and if you pass 3 tests, you get all the money in the jar." The man certainly isn't going to pass this up, so he asks, "What are the 3 tests?" "You've got to pay first," says the bartender. "Those are the rules." So, after thinking it over a while, the man gives the bartender $10 which he stuffs into the jar. "Okay," says the bartender, "here's what you need to do. First, you have to drink a whole quart of tequila in 60 seconds or less, and you can't make a face while doing it. Second, there's a pit bull chained in the back with a bad tooth. You have to remove that tooth with your bare hands. Third, there's a 90-year-old lady upstairs who's never slept with a man. You have to take care of that problem." The man is stunned. "I know I already paid my $10, but I'm not an idiot. I won't do it. You'd have to be nuts to drink a quart of tequila and then do all those other things." "Your call," says the bartender, "but your money stays where it is." As time goes on, the man has a few more drinks and finally says, "Where's the damn tequila?" He grabs the bottle with both hands and drinks it as fast as he can, tears streaming down both cheeks. But he doesn't make a face, and he drinks it in 58 seconds. Next, he staggers out the back door, where he sees the pit bull chained to a pole. Soon, the people inside the bar hear loud growling, screaming, and sounds of a terrible fight. Then nothing but silence. Just when they think that the man surely must be dead, he staggers back into the bar. His clothes are ripped to shreds, and he's bleeding from bites and gashes all over his body. He drunkenly says, "Now, where's that old woman with the bad tooth?" A Kentucky farm wife called the local phone company to report her telephone failed to ring when her friends called. In addition, on the few occasions when it did ring, her dog would always moan right before the phone rang. The telephone repairman proceeded to the scene, curious to see if this was a psychic dog or a senile old lady. He climbed the telephone pole, hooked in his test set, and dialed the subscriber's house. The phone didn't ring right away, but then the dog moaned, and soon after, the telephone began to ring. Climbing down from the pole, the telephone repairman found the following. 1. The dog was tied to the telephone system's ground wire with a steel chain and collar. 2. The wire connection to the ground rod was loose. 3. The dog was receiving 90 volts of signaling current when the number was called. 4. After a couple of jolts, the dog would start moaning and then urinate. Finally, the wet ground would then complete the circuit, thus causing the phone to ring. This demonstrates that some problems can be fixed by pissing and moaning. A fisherman's wife gives birth to a healthy set of twins. After some time, they notice that one boy always faces toward the ocean, and the other always faces away. Even if the parents were to turn them, they would always reposition themselves. So, they name the boys Toward and Away, respectively. On the twins' 10th birthday, the fisherman decided to take them on a fishing trip. He told his wife that they would be back in a week. A week passes, then a month, then 2, 3 months pass with no word from them, and the wife begins to lose hope. However, one day, she saw 2 figures approaching from the horizon, dragging the biggest fish she'd ever seen. She runs to her husband and child and says, "Wow, that fish is gigantic." The fisherman says, "Well, it's actually a funny story. We spent a week at sea with no luck. However, on the last day, this beast jumped up on the deck and ate Toward whole. For 3 months, I fought the fish, until eventually I was able to defeat it and cut Toward free." "That's amazing," the wife says, looking to her son. "But where's your brother?" The fisherman interrupts and says, "Well, if you think this fish is big, you should have seen the one that got away." My friends, if you want to watch other funny jokes, subscribe to the channel.